just like normal.
Thank you for your time. My name is Beitula, and this is Shooting from the Hip. This is Shooting from the Hip, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, this is Shooting from the Hip. Bet on it, Shooting from the Hip. Thank you for being here. I'd like to start by reading you something. So I appreciate you being here. Please keep in mind what we're doing here on Bet On It, Shooting from the Hip. We explore human ideas, philosophies, and noteworthy information. This exploration is us thinking aloud, a thought exercise, jumping into ideas and examining them, and then re-examining them. You will find we are prone to using adult language when expressing opinions. In keeping with that, you shouldn't believe anything we say. We are not experts of any kind. We are just having fun with these ideas, philosophies, and information in the hopes that you will find it fun, interesting, and entertaining. We encourage you to invest time into searching out these subjects and come to your own conclusions. Now, on with the shit show. Slim, how you doing, buddy?
Good and warm.
Yes, it's a mighty fine day early in July in Canada, summertime too, no less.
Yeah, it's hot for us.
And for all of you that think that we have nothing but snow and igloos, you're wrong. So today's episode is going to be the second part of the episode titled Mind, Body, Spirit, the Holy Trinity, or a Holy Trinity, like not to offend any of you religious types, but of the idea. In the first episode we did explore what mind, body, and spirit are, and what the implications are in terms of, like, as human beings, what we can do to sort of to integrate all three of those aspects of ourselves. So we isolate them for the purposes of discussion, so that we can talk about them with relative ease, but they're wholly integrated, right? You don't. We did explore that. We did talk about the mind-body connection in the previous episode, and that's clearly been established and well understood within medicine, right? So today's episode, what we're going to do is we're going to really just explore the idea a little bit further and try and hopefully flesh it out in a complete kind of way. So if you bother to watch both episodes, that you'll get a really comprehensive view of it. At least we're going to try to do that.
Yeah, I think it's worth emphasizing that because, like he said, we're doing 2 episodes on it. It's not necessarily easy to say where the boundaries between, like, mind and body or mind and spirit would be, and there's tons of approach to take. But typically, I don't think people are materialists anymore. They have a sense of, like,
it's interesting that you bring that up. I think that it used to be very dominant, that whole materialist kind of view, but I think just in recent times, like very recently, it's not pushback per se, but more like people trying to have a more balanced kind of view. Thank you for your time. Trashy bastard. I forgot, what was I saying? Oh, it's that people. It's not so much that they're out completely avoiding being materialists, but now they're trying to integrate spiritual view and blend it with materialism. Because you can't ignore the fact that this is a material reality, and that you are required to function within that material reality. The question is how, like how much of it. Are you a complete slave to the materialist views on what reality is, or do you try to find like a counterbalance, which would come in the form of some kind of spirituality? There are many who are religious and think of themselves as being spiritual. I don't tend to subscribe to that. I think being religious is a form of spirituality, but it's not spirituality that stands alone. It's kind of under very specific bias, right? So that's why they give themselves names. They have complete rituals that are like assigned to them and that they all adhere to, and that's what makes you part of any one religious group, right? Where spirituality is a lot more open-ended, and you see you'll see, and again, there might be questionable, but you see people like integrating like indigenous kind of thinking and spirituality in the way that they're viewing reality and themselves in the world, right? So what we're really talking about in this mind, body, spirit, like as a trinity, is that you as an individual have to balance all these things out, and then that's what allows for you to become more fully well-rounded, more complete. So it doesn't. So ultimately, I don't know that it matters if you're religious or you describe yourself as being like spiritual but not religious. That addresses the spirit side of things, and then mind and body we clearly outlined in that first episode that like really you can apply methods of training to draw out whatever the highest potential is in your mind and of the body. And we know that to be true because, you know, we have a world full of high-end performers, athletic and intellectually. So you know.
Yeah, there's there's a
Oh,
lot
it's okay.
there's a lot I actually want to add. Sorry to intervene. It's a lot of people might have segmented views of it because they experience part of this. Like some people uh, feel like there's a spiritual connection to like awareness, and they have that through experiences like, you know, athletes that have the Mihai Csikszentmihalyi flow state, and they experience it. It's something more than what they would expect from a materialist view, but they could still reason out in materialist ways.
But actually, in material science, the flow state is well understood, and again, it's because of athletic performance. But it's not purely. For most of us, we discover it as a result of being like engaged physically. So as children, we lived in flow.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as you start interacting with other children, and it would be high vibes, highly energetic, and lots of like physicality, running around, chasing each other. That they're completely present in what they're doing. They, you know, they're oblivious to everything else around them, which isn't exactly true. But the flow state provides you that, where you have an awareness of everything around you, but you're dialed into what you're doing in the moment. So, and we did this. We did, you know, we did kind of briefly touch on the subject of that perhaps balancing out mind, body, and spirit could allow for individuals to tap into like the placebo effect, right? So the idea that like here that mind-body connection and coupled with spirit and coupled with emotional content like highly positive, energized, highly positive emotions, that you might actually be able to induce like an unusual capacity to heal yourself physically, and for that matter, maybe even psychologically. So it's clear to me, after investing as much time as I have into the subject, that it really is a huge mystery. That we are a huge mystery, but we're starting to have a defined picture of what we really are. We're becoming less and less mysterious because now the realization is that these are capacities that are latent and lay dormant in all of us. It's not for high functioning specific types. It's a part of being human, and it's something that you can tap into. And that's really where this conversation is going. The idea that you as an individual can take complete agency over yourself, and you can have autonomy and be like a whole human being, and in doing all of that, empower yourself. Right?
I'll add to that if I can. It's
Sure.
even popularized to the point where there's there's channels called like the Thought Emporium and this and that, and they do biohacking. Like it seems like not only is it more in public view, public interest, it's also a grassroots approach, because nowadays you can buy sections of DNA, and you also buy like agar and different, so like a nutritional thing.
Yeah.
You grow like your own I don't say DNA, I don't know the specifics of it, but you grow genomes modify genomes. You can do this at home now. We're in that kind of Renaissance era with technology that we weren't necessarily prepared for.
I think
Spiritually, I would say.
it's interesting that you point that out. I think it's a response to the uncertainty of the times, like particularly in the last 5 years, from 2020 to now 2025. You see, I see uh, the idea of people taking more direct control of their existence, becoming like a response to the uncertainty of the times and everything that we've endured, including COVID. For many of us, we still bear the, we still bear the burden and the scars of COVID. There's still people walking around with masks, and how much of that is because they're afraid, right? So I think in having to face all that and the uncertainty of like, they're not even formal wars anymore. They're just it's conflicts around the world, and all this, saber rattling and fear mongering of like a third world war. And here's the thing: it won't take, if it actually becomes physical. I don't know necessarily that it'll take the shape of like previous world wars. It's not that there won't be body counts, but I think it'll be far less. I think instead of it being about out and out physical destruction, it might be more about destruction of
like infrastructure
well, not just even that, but like information. So the war will be fought through information and disinformation, breakdowns of societal norms, because those will be like questioned and perhaps even shattered, which will force us then as a species and as a people to kind of rethink everything. Like, how much of this do you need to endure before you go like, I think I've had enough,
I think to get into examples would be too specific, but this idea of like I would call it spiritual war, not for the common terms, but it's this idea that people's focus changes how they feel affects how they act in their body and their entire lifestyle. So this idea of a war of the mind, and if you abstract that into what it means, even if you use spiritual terms as a metaphor, which I typically do, it seems like people are fighting over their consciousness.
Okay, so then our internal conflict is a reflection of the external conflicts that we have going on, and
directly affecting our actions.
And our internal environment. It becomes affected by the fact that like we have all this conflict, right? And again, oh my God, please tell me it's not going to rain.
Umbrella.
Let's just wait. Like, I don't think they were calling for a significant amount of it, so I'm willing to endure a few little drops if you are.
Man, you're getting too deep into this like deep subject. I think they made that cloud for you.
They just want me to shut up.
Just like that, like, in the Peanuts, how they would have like a cloud over a person.
Yeah.
Like, very cartoony thing to do.
Yeah, just rain on my parade, or spittle on my parade. So getting back to what we were talking about, so I think this very idea of like external breakdowns of things that we held up as being true for the longest time, I think part of that is seeing those things being challenged or outright just no longer adhered to. That kind of puts people in a place that's uncomfortable, which personally I think that's where you should be. But we've been sold this idea of like safety and security, and for the majority of people, it's it becomes their focus and their existence. But even that's breaking down the ideas of safety and security, what that even means.
Because that could be a carrot on a stick, this concept of security.
Well, external security,
yes.
And the idea of like, again, how as it relates to mind, body, and spirit, if you can balance these things out, then there's an internal, I don't want to use the word security, but maybe confidence. where you're not so driven or concerned by this requirement for external like safety and security, because you're kind of you're comfortable in your competence, right? So that's where the comfort comes from, is that you're confident that you can deal with any challenge that you're confronted with. I go, isn't that way more value than a material comfort where you got a comfortable couch to sit on, you don't have to, and you can ignore the outside world?
Yeah. Like I've heard courage is, it's not the lack of fear, it's the
ability to actually act even though you're afraid.
right. Like you're still walking over a scary caravan, but you have like you're stepping on a rope. You're not just stepping over.
Right. So, and I think again, it speaks to how all this stuff is inherent in every individual, but no one's ever told you that here, you can empower yourself to such a degree that you can manage whatever challenges you're confronted with, but it's going to require you to be something that you're currently not. And for the majority of us, like you said, in the last 5 years, if you've seen a subtle sea change in the way people are kind of looking at things. There's a lot of people who are completely caught up in the nonsense of like social media and self-gratification, and they're trapped. But there are others who are even in the midst of that. They're like going, I want more. And so here, now we're defining what more is. Well, more is your capacity to no longer be entrapped by the conventions of the society that you were raised in and that you were expected to live by, because now all that stuff is threatened with instability. So now you see for what it is, like how insecure that all that stuff is. And even though what we've been conditioned to seek that kind of safety and security, but the fact of the matter is, it's like, please don't rain.
I'm grabbing the umbrella.
So, at any rate, as I was saying, hey, is it a good idea in the rain to be plugged into the outlet? We're going to be electrified? A little more electrifying than we actually are. You do such a good job. I'm not sure exactly how we're gonna. There we go. So you'll pardon us for the inconvenience, but I think once the rain causes, so I get completely darkened out. No, dude, it's good. I don't know why you need those to support the umbrella.
Just right now. I'm sorry, I look so silly on camera.
Oh, okay. Oh, because it's that low. Okay, apologize for the inconvenience, but it's the risk you run when you do stuff outdoors.
Sorry, what was the last thing you mentioned? Sorry.
Oh, it's the breakdown of like we live in a society that's conditioning us in a very particular way, and now those conventions of the society that has conditioned us are starting to like dissolve. No, they're not completely destroyed, but
yeah. Can I give an example?
Sure.
People my age aren't going out spending all their money on drinking. We're spending all our money on rent. The idea of a bigger yacht isn't pleasing because we're not getting a bigger yacht. The thing we're looking for is like a more not immense, but like a more quality experience. And you don't get that from materialism. You get it from like enjoying life, exploring.
Yeah, right. So then the experience of living, and then the question becomes, what kind of experience are you going to have? So, and I would offer up this: the amalgamation of mind, body, and spirit, or finding a balancing point between those three aspects of who you are, would be the ultimate experience and the ultimate expression then of yourself. So, potentially, if your generation doesn't cave into like political ideologies like worshiping communism, remember, communists, to say that they're horrible understates what they've done historically. And anyone who endorses communism, it's clear to me that they don't understand their own history, because the worst human rights violators in history have been communist regimes. right? You don't have to believe me. Just do a Google search and you'll be shocked. Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge, Joseph Stalin and his purges, what's his name, Mao, and in China, his purges of their own people, right? So their solution was you just kill them all off, and then the ones that remained, you impose your will on them, and they do as they're told. And I'm like, here, you just wasted a huge potential resource by deciding that they're not fit to be around, and that since they're so undesirable, that you'd be better off turning them into fertilizer. When I would argue that here, then what you have to do is provide them training and provide them the opportunity to explore who they are. What a great experience then to figure out who you are as a human being, so that you're no longer limited by your material existence or by what you imagine yourself to be because of what other people have told you. You turned it into an experience of personal exploration. So it's an eternal exploration. So now you realize the entirety of, you can spend a lifetime realizing the entirety of who you are. What more worthwhile way of living could there possibly be?
Right, regardless of social class. Like,
right, everybody can do it.
I was thinking the value of like a photograph of Big Ben or the pyramids of Egypt. It's not as important as like the personal experience of going into the cab, going around the areas, checking it out, like your own experience.
Right, and now you're talking about like travel as it's a way to enrich yourself. But I'm saying that if you don't have the means to enrich yourself that way, methods of training which are plentiful on YouTube. So you just have to determine which ones are of value to you or applicable to you, and then start adopting those training methods to draw out the highest expression of your mind, body, and spirit. So then that's you ultimately unifying all those aspects of who you are, and allows for you then to, it's this holistic approach to like integrating all those aspects that then allows for you to be this fully realized and enriched human being, right? Where you become the embodiment of of things that now have fallen out of popularity. The idea of like freedom of speech and that sort of thing. That those are things we should cherish because it informs your experience. So if you're going to deny those things, go, hey, you can't say that. That's control, and I'm going to go back to what I said. It's what the communists did. It's what every communist political movement in history has done. So the fact that some people have gotten into their head that the answer to everything is somehow a political solution, I completely disagree. You're pissing up the wrong tree.
Yeah, the idea to hand off the biggest problems to people that you might not agree with, and who might have the most to gain from it, it's not typically good.
All of them establish hierarchy. So this idea of communism, you think they're completely communal? No, they establish hierarchies within the communion so that those who represent the leadership are always in leadership. Well, that's fucking the dictatorship.
But it happens in any ism.
All of them. That's why I don't support and endorse any kind of political ideology. It's a waste of your energy. And if you're aligning with a political ideology, you're a dupe. You're somebody who's clearly now seeking comfort in that gang mentality, right? That somehow there's security and safety in numbers. There's not. All you're doing is perpetuating the worst of what we're capable of, and it robs you of your individuality, right? So, and I think the answer to the problems is a fully realized individuality. Right.
Those people would also connect with the community more wholesome.
Right, and they wouldn't subscribe to any single political ideology. They're not interested in that shit. What they're interested in is quality of existence, the quality of not just their existence, but the quality of the existence of everyone around them. Because again, as much as we like to think that it's all, that it's not connected, what you do in the course of your life can have a profound effect on the course of other people's lives. So if you're somebody who's balanced in mind, body, and spirit, then what it provides for society is the opportunity now for you to enrich other people, right? And then all the capacities that are dormant or latent in the average person, they become the focus, and you start to draw them out of the individual. And I'm not talking about like some kind of mystical powers. I'm just talking about people who have whose focus is realizing their fullest potential. So the best of what they're physically capable of, what the best of what they're mentally capable of, and the best of what they're spiritually capable of.
Right. Like, let's say Ben wants to open a bakery, small company, and the benefit of doing this to him is he can know his area. He can also donate food that's not old but getting old. There's some sort of charity. Like, you give where you can.
I'm amazed and astonished by the fact that corporations will destroy food to protect profits.
Yeah, you can look at like farming and you see that they're working on very thin margins.
Yeah, so I'm like, to me, it's an utter act of stupidity, and not because now you're allowing. Remember, you live in such a world. I think we can get rid of this now, the umbrella.
Yeah, I think so. It's not messing up the lighting, but I can move it.
Yeah, if you don't mind. So the fact that profit-minded people are the ones who are only, that's their only focus, are making decisions about things that they shouldn't be making any decisions about, because they don't consider anything except for profit. They don't give a shit about whatever kind of human impact that it might have in a more broad sense. And I go, this has been the problem. And so you're not going to find a solution in any of that kind of thinking that created the problem, right? And everybody thinks that somehow you got to go back to a more pure form of communism or capitalism or whatever the hell it is. And I'm like, you're wrong. You have to change as individuals in terms of the things that you hold with high regard and value, in terms of how you live and how you function as a human being. But we don't talk about these things.
Yeah. Like, I definitely see how this idea of just giving it up to like government corporations, NGOs, non-government organizations that work with them, this idea that just giving them all the choice isn't going to be beneficial, even if they're more selective in their choices. It's still something that would actually take involvement from the individual. And nowadays we don't have democracy.
Okay,
we
so
can all speak, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, again, like I said, to me, I find it very troubling that the impingement on freedom of speech, and that somehow that they think that they have the right. Well, they don't have the right, and even legally, they don't have the right. But no one's going to tell them no, except for me. No.
Well, that's one good reason why, not speaking about specific media, but like there's companies that will alter footage and do this and that. Like, that manipulation is enough to skew the voters.
Well, okay, but to me it sounds like a highly advanced form of feudalism. So now all the tech giants, all the corporate interests, the entire financial world, they're the elite, or they're the royalty within the idea of like feudalism, and that we're all serfs, and we basically we just rent space on everything that they lay claim to, right? And I'm like, look, for any of that to change means that every individual has to change,
right?
And then the question becomes, what are you going to change into? You're going to turn into like more of the same bullshit? Well, that clearly hasn't been the solution to the problem, right? Like that line of reasoning and thinking is a failure, and yet somehow they're trying to prop it up and to continue it at the expense of us, the average person, right? And I don't like mobs, and I certainly don't like mob rule, because it the decisions are made by the lowest common denominator. And there's greater value in the lowest common denominator attempting to rise to its highest potential, because then that will dramatically change the face of the society, right? And like I said, those who benefit from it the most care the least about anyone else other than themselves, right? And so to me, I go, that's a failure. Like, it's selfishness at its worst. And what drives everything? Fucking greed.
Yeah, if you look at like why people have a dog in the fight, some people are genuinely interested. Some people have dog in the fight because it means their stocks go up. Like on a more individual basis, I would say the corruption is just this sense of like, oh, because it's socially acceptable to get a bigger and bigger yacht because it's better to do this and that.
Well,
And
but who the hell can afford the yachts other than the wealthy, but not just the wealthy, the extremely wealthy, right? And then they're gonna fucking tell us how we should be living. Hey, you need to fuck off, right? I'm not entirely sure who those people think they are, but I can tell you this much: they completely believe in the most egotistical way that they have the right to do whatever the hell that they want, right? Well, like, you're just ignoring the rest of us. And like, how do we move forward from here? We've had 6,000 years of history, and all we've done is trample all over each other. And I'm not talking about like, tree hugging, hand holding, singing kumbaya kind of connection. I'm talking about us in the most serious way, going, here, we're all driven in the most purposeful way to realize who we are, the highest expression of every individual.
You've mentioned Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That
Yes.
also plays into this very much, because people could think about their daily schedule and you cut all the fat, you take what's very important, what's going to be meaningful in 20, 40 years. That's substantial. Those sorts of actions, the best to be taken like right from the beginning. Like, how do you get your food? Who's local around you, because you don't want to kick your neighbor's dog.
No, so it's important to be aware of like your material considerations. Like, you need food, you need a place to sleep, you need, all these things. You don't ignore them. They don't go away, but now you balance them out against, here, how do you elevate yourself as an individual? Can you do all of it? And that's really the challenge. And it falls to the individual, because it's your responsibility, right? But everybody's looking at everybody else going, well, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Here, you're the one who should do something about it. You, the individual, right? So, and it might seem incrementally small, but if suddenly, like, out of the 8.5 billion that are on the planet, what if you had 1 billion people start going, here, I'm more interested in this idea of like that I don't have to live to be a slave to somebody else's ideas. Right?
Yeah, like doom scrolling, how that's such a popular thing. But if people have genuinely good intentions, you can write your friend like a 2-page note on your thoughts about something that's meaningful, something that will matter in 20 years.
Or better still, have a conversation with them. Explore it, whatever the idea is, to its fullest, and you do that amongst yourselves. That's how this spreads, right? It's the fact that you go, here, I kind of like what's being said, and so then now you engage with others in that course of conversation. And again, you don't, you're going to know when people are not interested. They're going to be rolling their eyes or giving you a blank stare. Those are the people don't talk to. They're not ready for it. You're going to be all right?
Yeah.
You should seek out others who are ready, thinking the same way that you do. You're not seeking converts. You're trying to change yourself. And there's no value in you deciding you're going to change everyone else first. change you. Take responsibility for your own existence. Take those three components or aspects of what you are, mind, body, and spirit, and find a balancing point. Find where they align or they overlap, and then put your energy there. And while you have to maintain, like, all your considerations, material considerations, that you can't ignore those things too.
Yeah.
So it's a real juggling kind of act to be able to do all of that. But you as the individual, that's what's required, right? So it's the requirement that turns people off, because it's way easier to get somebody else to do it. No,
You're good?
I'm confident it's going to pass.
All right.
Even though it's spittling all over us, but it's not horrible, right? So to me, it does. To me, it seems like there's so much that can be done by the individual, but most individuals are trained not to seek that. Instead they'd want someone else to take care of that for them. And it's like there's no value in that, and there's no growth, and there's no experience that's worthy of you in that. When someone else is doing it, you're not the one who's getting the experience.
Yeah, even cooking a good meal, like
from the most simplest things,
yeah.
right? So from the microcosm to the macrocosm.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm glad that you do.
That's one thing that always kind of applies. There's these meta rules, and they're not so straightforward as, like, you can write it down, share it with people, and it just works. There's experience that has to be attached to it. Like, the golden rule never would work if people couldn't communicate. Oh yeah, no, bad shit happened to me.
Well,
Like,
here's the
experience.
reality, that even in the pursuit of, like, say your entire focus to your existence is self-mastery, and you're deep in it, and you're not only deep in it, you're really competent at it, so you've achieved a really high degree of competency, you're still going to encounter, because it's not a guarantee, you're still going to encounter bad shit, random, stupid, chaotic shit, because that's part of existence.
Yeah.
And there's no avoiding that. And at least you'd be better able to manage any kind of chaos from the external world, because your internal world is more aligned, you're more balanced. This holistic approach of, like, balancing out mind, body, and spirit, it gives you a sense of wholeness, vitality, and balance. So then, no matter what you're confronted with, you're more than prepared to deal with it. So no matter how horrible life can get, and we know that it can get absolutely horrible, right? Tons of examples of it, but it can also be like fantastic. It can be great, but that's to the individual then to have those experiences, and then it's not so much that you're preparing for it, but as a result of balancing out these things, or self-mastery, or however you would choose to, aligning this Trinity, of mind, body, and spirit, it gives you the capacity now to deal with virtually anything, right? So part of, like, that mind is, like, whatever psychological traumas and issues that you have, that you seek resolution, you take responsibility for it, and you find a way to render it inert, so it no longer has a negative impact on how you function from day to day, from moment to moment. But most people, they're so disempowered that they don't know what to do. So they seek distraction, because they don't want to have to face who they are.
Yeah, that's all too convenient for not the people that do it, but the sense of, like, oh, tomorrow, oh, I don't have the energy to. You have this day once. It's not too hard to push a little.
I think if you could balance out mind, body, and spirit, I think that as an individually, I think you would find that you would tap into an abundance of energy, right? That you would that you couldn't use that excuse. I don't have the energy. I don't, I don't have the willingness to do it, or to, you know, I just can't bring myself to it. Well, if your focus is then self-mastery, or this idea of balancing out mind, body, and spirit, I don't think you would ever offer up an excuse like that, because you would tap into an abundance of energy. And that's the other thing. That depressed state is, you surrender to it. You have the ability to resolve it, but you got to make that a priority. So whatever the issues are, you have to address those while you're trying to train mind, body, and spirit. I know it's no small feat, and I know that it requires a lot of effort on the part of the individual. But again, if you're seeking, if you're seeking like a high experience in life, I don't. Climbing to a mountaintop is surely exhilarating, but I don't think it's nearly as exhilarating as completely relieving yourself of any psychological stress and anxiety, and tapping into the abilities that are innate to you as the individual, or you acquire a skill level through training, where now that it puts you in this high state of competence. To me, I go, you would feel more enriched. The thing about climbing a mountain, it's exhilarating in that moment.
Well, as an analogy, it's functional enough.
Right.
But every mountain is different.
Right. But, and don't get me wrong, it is an exhilarating experience, but it's momentary. And what I'm talking about, mind, body, and spirit, balancing mind, body, and spirit, I'm losing it. And self-mastery, that's a continuous, ongoing thing. So then you'll be constantly enriched by that experience.
Of course, because like the alternative is not having focus, not like all the things that you're afforded by having integrity with mind, body, and spirit. Essentially, your experience is less valuable to you in your own subjective and objective opinion than it would be if you just did nothing. So it's better to do something.
Right. So given a choice, here your choices are to do nothing, just let shit happen to you, or to take an active part in it, in like directing how your existence plays itself out. If you're looking for guarantees, there aren't any. So you have to first learn to be okay with that. That you have to accept the fact that there's no guarantees that any of this is going to work out to your advantage.
Some people might even compare this to like Sisyphus's situation, where you don't really get any reprieve forever. Like, it's momentary and it passes.
Right, but I think, again, if you're going to draw like something from Sisyphus's trial and challenge, it's the effort that might be more value than whether or not you're able to get the rock over the lip of the ledge, or it rolls back down. I think it's always going to roll back down, but that doesn't mean you're not going to get it up on the ledge. I think you very likely could get it very regularly up on the ledge, but it won't stay there. It's going to roll back down eventually, like you say.
Yeah,
right?
Like peak athletes must experience this
because eventually at some point they can't be a peak athlete. They age out, as a result of injury. So it changes their experience. But if in the case of the peak athlete, they've enriched themselves on that journey of being a peak performance athlete, that they've realized that their mind and their spirit along with their body, then it doesn't matter like what deterioration you're going to go through physically. Like that, again, a universal truth: we age out. Right? I'm 59, and I'm looking down the barrel at 60, and physically I have to do things differently than the way I did before, but I'm still very physically able, and I don't tend to not be. but that's because I actively make time to do it. So, and I am somebody who has tons of things that enrich who I am, and I have to schedule them and balance them in such a way that I can accommodate all that stuff. And that, for me, is an enriching experience. Like the fact that I get to do all these things, and I am doing the things I love to do. To me, that's rewarding. So you can have a rewarding existence beyond your income, beyond your profession, beyond employment. You do those things for money because you need money, gives you access to resources that you require. But there is a considerable amount of free time for anyone to exploit and to use to your own advantage. The question is, are you gonna just dismiss it and just go, hey, it's just way easier to like just hide in a video game or on social media?
Yeah, and people don't have to become LeBron James in
No,
order to enjoy their
no.
life. Like there's a balance or equilibrium.
Right, and it's only seeking what you as an individual can achieve. So it doesn't matter how much you achieve. What matters is you're making the effort. And then the achievement and the reward comes with the effort. No effort, no nothing. Right? So again, I I I I can't stress enough how important it is then to that focus. And here, what are you going to make your life about? The elevation of yourself. What could be more rewarding and more satisfying? The best way to live is to live a life that you don't need to take a vacation from. Right? That I don't need a break from my existence. Why? Because it's so enriching and rewarding. I don't need the idea of doing nothing. No appeal.
The idea of having that trinity of mind, body, and spirit, you can look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Each of those things don't have to be like a negative task, like, oh, I have to cook. It can be enjoyable. You find your own modality to enjoy sweeping.
I completely agree. So then the most mundane things then become really rewarding. The idea of like that balance of mind, body, and spirit, it allows for the individual to have like a greater sense of self or self-awareness and understanding of oneself in terms of like needs, wants, things that trigger you, and then you minimize the triggers, and then you try to maximize the things that you want in terms of the realization of those things. You make them a reality instead of just wanting them. You turn them into a reality. And then the needs are, again, those are things that are, basically you answering that biological requirements. But if you're able to balance all those things out, then again, it provides a very enriching experience. And ultimately, isn't that what we all want? To feel enriched from the lives we're living, right? But everybody's spending all their time wishing that they could be Jeff Bezos or somebody like that, somebody who's obscenely wealthy, and they think that that's the solution. Well, the guy's had a failed marriage. So, how satisfying could it possibly be? Like, so he, and how realized could he be if he couldn't communicate with another human being, and then the best solution to their problem was for him to tank or for them to jointly tank their relationship. And I'm not blaming him or assigning blame to whoever his wife was. I'm just simply saying that their inability to meet each other in a more honest and direct way only led to their marriage dissolving. And again, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but the point I'm trying to illustrate is that even with all those advantages, with all that material resource, they're still subject to the same failings as the rest of us. So, obscene wealth is not an answer either.
Like the balance is kind of like when you go to school, you get 95%, and you're like, oh, that's amazing. There's somebody that's gonna. It sounds terrible, but there's gonna be somebody who has the right mindset, and they go, why didn't you get 100? Why not that extra 5%? Where was that?
Yeah, I again, overemphasis on on the degree of achievement. The point is just to keep moving.
Yeah, if you get 96 the next time, hey, that's pretty good.
You know, what's your dad's favorite expression? Slow is better than no.
Yeah,
Right? So that's how you approach it, and you do it in the most honest and genuine way. So you don't turn it into a source of stress.
you gotta slow down before you speed up
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah. So you just answer the demand or the requirement or the desire as best as you possibly can, given the limitations of everything else that's going on in the course of the life that you're living. So you can always move forward, even if it's just little bit at a time. It's still a forward momentum, right? And I think that's the thing. People, again, largely are convinced that like somehow they're, and maybe it's because of like, lotteries and stuff like that. It's the big cash out. You're gonna win large. Sometimes the small wins are are, are really rewarding.
Right. That would definitely bring up focus, attention, because you think about these lottery things and all these things you see on TV. The idealization, like this idea, oh, they must be perfect, they're beautiful, or they have money, or they have this.
Right. Again, it's all again fallacies, right? Like it's falsehoods that we've kind of like wholeheartedly kind of jumped into and agreed to.
Yeah,
When
it's tribal like demonization. We're all human. We
Wha-
all do
right.
the same crap.
So even with, again, I'll say it again, even with all the advantages that wealth brings, it doesn't resolve the issues that you have as an individual. It's not the wealth that does it. It's you, the individual, that does it. So you're required to do it. So if your life is a struggle, more power to you. I hope that you can overcome the struggle. But that's kind of the point, is to answer to the struggle, to rise above the struggle.
To adapt.
Yeah, in the military they used to say it all the time, was like adapt, overcome. You go over, under, or around, right? Find a way. You find a workaround. You find a way to make it happen. And so everybody, that's the kind of attitude that's very actually liberating, because then you'll seek out solutions. You'll do the work required to resolve whatever it is that you find yourself confronted with.
It's funny because it's almost like as people we're all the same because we have so much we relate on. We really have to emphasize so much we relate on. But it's like Full Metal Jacket. It's like this gun's mine. There's many like it, but this one's mine. Something.
Yeah. I remember the line. I actually like that movie quite a lot. Anyway, but that's the point. The point is that it's the realization of your not just potential, but you as an individual, right? Because that's where there's value. The value is in your uniqueness. So all you're looking to do is emphasize and realize the totality of that uniqueness. But how do you do it? Well, you have to elevate mind, body, and spirit, right? You find a balanced way to living. There's no balance in being like uh, uh pursuing like distractions like alcohol and drugs. You can use them as a way so you can punctuate experiences that you're having with euphoria. That's understandable, but the problem is that we're so prone to addiction that, again, it's probably why that as human beings, it's probably speaks to why we're so easy to manipulate. We adapt so completely to something that we basically become addicted to it, and then we're never able to move beyond whatever limitations that brings, right? That because you get so caught up in it that you can't see an alternative.
It's basically running on the spot and going, this is where the floor is. What else am I going to do? It's like pick a different floor. You can substitute things.
Yeah, again, the problem is that because we're so prone to it, it just becomes way easier to just sort of to just allow yourself to be overtaken by it. And I'm like, here, like, you have the opportunity to do more than just be victimized by yourself, even though the thing that the source of it isn't external. Ultimately, it's you who's victimizing you,
Yeah,
right?
finding the mode that best suits you to change, because everything's changed essentially. There's nothing that
It's
stays
the
the same.
it's the only thing that's permanent, but
Right.
no single change is permanent
Right.
because they're subject to further changes
Of
every
course.
time you have a change.
Yeah, it's the only constant.
Right.
But it's funny because you pick whatever mode you want, but the lens, through mind, body, or spirit, you can figure out, oh, drinking on Fridays, feeling like shit on Saturdays, and then recovering Sundays, that's a bad weekend. Like, I'm dead for a day and a
I know a
half.
lot of people who would tell you that that's a really good schedule and methodology to drinking. That if you drink on Friday night, Saturday's left for recovery,
Mm.
and then Sunday's like a full free day where you don't have to bear the burden of like Friday night.
Yeah, like that example, you can look at mind, body, and spirit. Mind, you're just neglecting the whole time. It's a fun experience, but it's entertainment. Body, you're fucking over your body, obviously. Spiritually, it's like, how many times can you kick a dead horse and it's still fun?
Well, I that's for the individual to determine,
Yeah,
right?
it'll
So
change every circumstance.
right, like so even though we're discussing and ruminating on the fact that like that it might not be exactly necessarily beneficial or might even be counterproductive, that's that's not for us to determine. It's for the individual to determine. So we can talk about it in the broadest sense,
Yeah,
but the question then becomes, well, what is it that you do, right? You personally, right? Like that's what's relevant. And so then it's up to the individual to figure that stuff out. Again, and if you take the approach that like somehow you are responsible entirely for what you do or what you're going to do, then to me that's good enough because that's the individual uh, taking into account what they're doing and then behaving in a way that's responsible. And if they have the freedom of time to do the things that we're just talking about, um, it's for them to determine whether they should or they shouldn't, right? Like we each have to look after our own shit, right? And we live in a world where shit happens, right? The most random things occur, right? Chaos is king.
I think it's a good time to bring up a few different examples. Like one you can think of, I think something Musashi, the art.
Miyamoto Musashi,
Right.
the
So he
the,
absolutely dominated
the sword saint.
Yeah, like he dominated his own field, but then became an artist.
Well, he became a spirit. Well, he became a philosopher and became very spiritual, and then got away from what his training was. So initially, his training was to be a samurai. He was raised in a family of samurai, and then he rose to to the highest expression of what a samurai could be. But he did that entirely on his own, right? Like so, even though initially all the instruction came uh, out of his social status, which was that of a samurai, and the fact that he was raised in a family of samurai, um, the level of achievement that he acquired was a direct result of all his own efforts. And then he conducted himself in such a way that it made him arguably the greatest samurai.
Yeah,
Uh,
if you want to be like Musashi, you would learn from his examples. It won't be perfect to you, but it's a
but
good symmetry.
again, if you want to reduce like somebody like Miyamoto Musashi's approach, it was training. You train to realize the fullest of what you're capable of doing. You stop placing value in things like the flavor Oh my. Things like that you derive pleasure from, like the flavor of food. It's not that you don't have those things, but you don't treat them with a priority, right? So that's the feeling of the average person, is that they prioritize things that probably don't shouldn't be prioritized, right? So like how your food tastes, how much sex you're having, like the fact that you're having it, that should be good enough, right? Like that, and your focus should be again in overcoming those things that are internally that work against you. So things like fear and anxiety, to put those things to rest, right? And how do you do that? Again, through dedication and training and being disciplined and showing up every day and doing what's required, you know, to master yourself. Taking charge of one's own health and well-being is empowering, and that's exactly what he did. And then as violent as his life was, he died a peaceful man, a man of peace. So you can be both, right? If there's any lesson there, that here, through discipline and training, you can achieve the highest expression in virtually anything, right? So he went from being an unquestionably skilled warrior to a man of peace, right? And he has the body count to prove it, right? So although that may not, but that it speaks again to the chaos and randomness of reality. That like sometimes you might be forced to confront situations like that. So if you're not balanced, mind, body, and spirit, you might fold under that strain. Right? Self mastery of that mind, body, and spirit gives you the capacity to do just that, right? But most of us treat it with complete disregard because they'd rather eat all the junk food that they want, smoke a ton of pot, or whatever does it for them. And again, not to characterize anybody who smokes pot in a pejorative kind of way, or that somehow it's really negative. It's not a negative reflection. But if it's the only thing you do, then it's a negative reflection.
Yeah, in this example, this person's an ancient aliens like fanatic, and
Who's that?
In this example, the pothead's like ancient aliens fanatic, watching all that.
I get what you mean. Somebody's just like so absorbed in something like that, it just becomes a distraction. Again,
Yeah.
taking you away from who you are. That's the problems with That's the problem with distraction. It doesn't allow for the realization of self, right? And ultimately, isn't that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Can I get a time check? How long have we been at this?
1 hour, 3 minutes.
I don't know. I feel like that somehow we've like covered everything that requires covering. Like, is there anything else that maybe you'd like to add, or?
I think there's a lot to talk about when it comes to like the interconnection between the two. Like, mind and spirit seems to be a tough one for me. Mind and body seems to be like well regarded as like more understood nowadays.
Well, we know that there's a mind-body connection. At least that there, at least in terms of medicine, there's confirmation of that. We know the placebo effect is a very real-world kind of function. It exists. Not only does it exist, but the pharmaceutical industry uses it as a way to test the veracity of the pharmaceuticals that they're going to put to market, right? So it has to do better than their drugs have to do better than the placebo effect. So all these things that we're capable of, and that could be our focus, like again through mind body connection, healing of the self. If the chief complaint economically is that there's a huge drain from obesity on the medical system and mental health issues, that's you turning to the institutions looking for resolution. When what we're talking about is the resolution exists within you as the individual. But that means you taking responsibility for your existence and then seeking out whatever methods are available to address that. And if it's going to be an exploration, that means you're going to probably encounter some dead ends, because you're going to look into things that don't pan out. Right?
It's definitely an exploration. Like you're any way you want to look at it, there's like any lens you want to have. There's going to be stimulus. There's going to be your actions, why you're having those actions. The psychology of our behavior, a lot of people might say it's like more complicated behavioral science. Like if you're looking at a monkey, they do similar things to us, but we do very different things from them.
Because we're infinitely more complicated than they are, in terms of, again, how our mind functions. So we can drive ourselves into neuroses. We can make ourselves completely neurotic, right? And as much as you want to blame that on external factors, there's a significant portion of that that's dictated by you, the individual. Like so there. I guess ultimately the point is that there is always something that you as the individual can do. The question is, do you have the willingness to do it? Right? So the whole idea, to me, it's been nothing but fascinating. No matter how much I look into mind, body, and spirit, I never run out of things information to explore. And it leads to even greater information. Like, it won't be too soon, but the very conversation we're having will dovetail into quantum manifestation, and you get support for that through like people like Dr. Andrew Huberman, who speaks to it at length. Dr. Joe Dispenza, although some people consider him divisive and controversial, I don't. He seems completely reasonable and analytical, and the way he presents it in terms of like the science to support what he's saying, it's sound reasoning, right? So it really falls then to the individual to explore all the modalities and methodologies that are out there and try to find the ones that are a good fit for themselves. So again, you're looking for an interesting experience. What could be more interesting than realizing who you are in your entirety, right? Isn't there greater value in that? And then what kind of quality of life stems from that, or becomes an offshoot of that? Probably a very high quality of life, right? And again, I would encourage people to, like in the disclaimer at the beginning, they need to figure this out for themselves. The point is to share the information and maybe expose each other to like the fact that, like, here, you are capable of doing this. It's an inherent capacity. It's just that you have to have the willingness to do it, and then exercise the discipline to be consistent, and in the pursuit of it, right? That you keep showing up every day, keep doing the work required every day, right? And then potentially over the course of a lifetime, it leads to somewhere highly interesting, right? And it's you that becomes the thing that's highly interesting, right?
I want to keep going and talking about it because, like, you'll hear from athletes this experience of like, well, this is my phrasing of it, like their experience of great change in their potential, just working through it, seeing, realizing, it's dedication, absolutely, but it's playful too. It's not like you're stressing yourself. It's weird because the things we talk about, they're more and more divisible, and we can always lead into other conversations. Like the psychology of mind and body could be its own damn episode.
Yeah, You could talk endlessly about the mind body connection, but we're again, if you hyper focus on that,
Yeah.
it, you might lose. You might lose the sense of balance, right? And that's ultimately, again, what the individual should be striving for is a sense of balance, or to find the middle way. Because what's the point of all of it if the only thing it does is stress you out even more than you already were? Then it's kind of counterintuitive. It's kind of so there's far greater value than as an individual. Like you said, in this playful approach, or you look, or your attitude towards it, that somehow that it's rewarding, and that you should feel good in the pursuit of it. You're not always That's not always going to be the case. Sometimes you're begrudgingly have to do it, right? Like, because you won't feel up to it. Those are probably the most significant times to be doing it, when you don't feel up to it, everything's working against you, and you can still summon up the jam to be able to actually pull it off. And then that's something that you can strive for, you can try and work towards. So again, there's value in the struggle, value in driving yourself to achievement, right? Or to Another way of saying it is self-realization, right? Like self-actualization, as Maslow stated. So that's the ultimate expression of you as an individual. And we don't talk about what you could be ultimately. It's always under the context of what can you be in terms of how it generates uh, monetary advantage, so that you can have a life full of material goods, right? And I'm like, well, clearly that, like, we're at a tipping point. People, as much as they want that stuff, they're unsatisfied by it. So then it requires you to seek satisfaction elsewhere. It's clearly not in the accumulation of material goods, or private or independent wealth, or even just a really high income that allows you a lot of material freedoms. We still all struggle. We still all suffer, and all those advantages, as wonderful as they may seem, if you don't take care of yourself in terms of balancing yourself out, mind, body, and spirit, um, yeah, you're at a loss then. So no, it won't matter how much material advantage you have. It'll never be enough. It'll never be satisfying, at least to the degree that most of us would like. So you're going to be constantly seeking more of it. And I'm like, how much money do you need? How many goods do you need to accumulate before you start feeling like a whole person? Or maybe it has nothing to do with that.
The act of taking responsibility too is its own reward.
Yeah, most people wouldn't might not, and again, I don't know that I would hold it against them, but might not see it that way, like that, that it's somehow rewarding. It's rewarding in the sense that it gives you a sense of satisfaction here, that you've taken charge of your life, that it provides you uh, this profound sense of, like, that you're doing it on your own, right? Like,
Yeah, it might be like the right lifestyle for most people to have as much agency in the direction, so it takes focus and responsibility. But like in broad strokes, it's hard to say, hey, people want responsibility, because like no, no, no.
well, I don't think that they want it, but again, it doesn't mean that it's not the means by which you that you like that you're able to acquire all those things that will bring you a strong sense of satisfaction and self, and a sense of accomplishment. I go, that's a direct result of you taking responsibility for your own existence. And most of us are trying to spend a lot of time dodging any sense of responsibility, but that's in terms of things that they don't want to be doing, right? Typically, right? So so What about the person who doesn't want to self-actualize? Well, for you, good luck. Like, the point of all of this is not to somehow force others into compliance. The idea is to spread the idea, and then if it takes or resonates with the individual, then that's excellent. But it's, again, it always falls to you, the individual. So if there's any sense of value, any sense of reward, it comes from all the efforts that you make, right? So
Yeah, we keep saying like adventure and like it's you going out into the world, and it's self-actualization in the sense that in order to not compete with like the world itself, but how you behave in the world, not only so you're taking the right action now, you're taking better action in the future. Like all these ideas of awareness, responsiveness, like the lifestyle choices today affect tomorrow, obviously. It just seems like so many people have this burden of like, oh, Uber Eats is easier and this and that. That's that's nearly spiritual and mental.
Well,
Completely.
I think it's because convenience is kind of supersedes all the things that we're talking about. It's kind of hard not to, so even if you have only a few bucks, and you're going to use the example you gave, like that, it's you're hungry, it's way easier to have somebody else provide you the sustenance, that so you don't have to do nothing other beyond like placing the order, right? So but that's the problem. Convenience ruins you as an individual, especially if that's what you actively seek. So do you think that there's maybe greater value in taking the time to learn how to actually cook a proper meal that's nutritious and tastes good and is good for you? I think there's, again, in that example, to me, it's a no-brainer. There's way more value in you making all that extra effort. You grow as an individual because now your skill base grows, right? Because food preparation, and you don't have to be like a chef, a master chef or something. Just competent enough that you're able to make good tasting, nutritious, and healthy foods, right? But conve- all the corporations that provide foods of convenience, they're always made up of the worst possible foodstuffs, right? So in a lot of cases, what are they now? Edible substances. You can't even call it food, right? So and it's the thing that largely we ignore, is like spikes in population for like type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, and obesity. It's a direct result of like pursuing foods of convenience,
Yeah.
right? Like, or surviving on foods of convenience. Well, in the Trinity of mind, body, and spirit, what a great way to affect the body. And we know there's a mind-body connection. So if you positively impact the body with like, healthy, good-tasting, nutritional foods, then there's carryover into the mind. Then the mind is less distressed because of how well you're managing the body's requirements. So then the mind or the brain function to a better degree. So all these things are connected, affect one and affects the others. So if you apply a positive effect across the board, then that's what will elevate you as an individual, right?
It's definitely good because if you're ordering stuff, you're robbed of the experience, and the experience itself is kind of what makes food so enjoyable. Like I made that,
Yeah,
I cooked that.
to me, like, because I cook a lot and I enjoy the time for food prep. And I'm somebody who has like, because of my type 2 diabetes, I'm required to like make a lot of accommodations to that end. And so, and it doesn't mean I'm robbed of like good tasting, healthy food. They're primarily healthy, but it's still good tasting foods. But I don't the other thing I don't do is I don't obsess over the food. I just take care of the food to know that it'll take care of me. So I manage my diabetes largely, almost exclusively through diet, and I'm able to keep my blood sugars down so that I'm in relatively healthy blood sugar ranges. So I, it's not that you can't. Everybody can, and you can attest to this. I was significantly overweight, so 240 pounds, in fact, right? And I'm only 5'7", so that gave me a big spare tire to carry around, right? And that took maybe 5-6 years to kind of resolve that. And I was always skinny and wiry and really lean. So to go from that to suddenly, and the funny thing was, when it happened, I thought I was just turning into my father. And the fact was that there was disease process at work that I was completely oblivious to. And then random, on something completely unrelated, my knee, I ended up going to the doctor, and the end result is you end up discovering that I'm a type 2 diabetic, and that explained why, or at least to a degree, the weight gain. Because as much as I was having really healthy meals, because I was always making good food, I was snacking on foods of convenience, right? Now in hindsight, I can see that I was seeking. That's why the expression comfort foods. I was taking comfort in food, right? Because of things that I hadn't completely addressed.
Man, you just triggered me. Now I'm thinking about sugar cookies and.
Well, I'm currently 170, so
Well, we're both like junkies when it comes to snacks, like chips.
I dropped 70 pounds, and now I'm no longer. It's not to say that I don't enjoy having chips, but instead of eating a whole bag, every couple of weeks I might just have a handful, right? So I'm not eating it with any consistency. But my behaviors also changed. Back then, I was watching a lot of movies in my evenings, right? Because I didn't have my own computer, and so I had to juggle use, because the desktop computer that I have access to is not mine; it's my brother's. And back then, he used to be on it all the time, so I wasn't able to explore information as constantly as I am now. But you evolve, you grow as an individual, and again, I'm not talking out my ass. I experience this stuff. I've made every effort to elevate myself, and it's an ongoing thing. It hasn't stopped. At 59, I'm still discovering and learning things about what it means to be human, right? And so this mind, body, spirit idea is that, as a human being, it kind of defines what we are. And maybe that's ultimately, it's all those existential questions. What are we? Where do we come from? What does it all mean? It's an attempt to answer those. But I don't treat any of the answers that I come across as absolutely definitive, unless there's, irrefutable evidence to suggest that, right? So
that's part of the benefit of having these capabilities where, you cook your own food, you know what's going on, you're familiar with the methodology. The understanding of methodology transfers over to similar skill sets. So, like, this idea, the more capable you are, the more options you have, the more you're able to guide your lifestyle with your own focus and your own personal responsibilities. Because you may consider it a personal responsibility to X, Y, and Z. I might not have that. I might not have a family. I might be a businessman, and
all of our individual circumstances, those are again considerations as to how you're going to approach any of this, right? Like that those will affect how you're able to address mind, body, and spirit, right? So you might have to put you put one prioritize one at any given time, and then kind of you put it on maybe the others on the back burner because you don't have enough time to address all three, right?
Yeah.
But that's only in that current circumstance.
We run into that problem just discussing the circumstances, because the circumstances are infinite. We're not talking about you know, we're not talking about one thing. We're talking about a thing that's very meta. It's the interrelations and all these things. So we kind of have to draw around the point.
Right, and I think ultimately the point is that it's all internal work. It's work that you do on yourself. So the solution isn't externally. It's internal, and then you whatever the solution is, you tap into it as a result of like dedication and training, and that will lead you to it.
Yeah, funny enough, I want you to read the disclaimer you do at the beginning.
Why?
I think it relates exactly to this. It's don't believe what we're saying.
Oh well, I'm not going to read it in its entirety, but yeah, that's why it's written that disclaimer's written the way it is. It's because look, it doesn't matter what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters are the ideas. So you have to, as an individual, you have to sort of look into the ideas and come to your own determination whether or not they have any value, right? There's no value in me telling you that this is the way you should do it or this is how you should be. It's meaningless. In fact, it's what I'm supposed to be doing about myself for myself, right? So again, the individual taking responsibility for themselves and then actively trying to, seek behaviors to that end. So that's all. At the end of the day, if there's anything that people are supposed to gain from this channel, is like here that you got to do the work. Like, it doesn't matter what I'm saying, and it doesn't, and it matters even less who I am. I'm just the voice.
Just like last time we recorded, the time before that, it's just for fun. It's an exploration.
Yeah. So and all we are doing is bending these ideas and trying to break them down in such a way so that they're accessible, and so that whoever might be listening, all two of you, that they're able to make determinations on their own, or at the very least, this would inspire them to look deeper into the idea on their own. Listen to other experts. Listen to people who say that it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Give everyone an opportunity to voice their perspective, and then ask yourself: is it sound? Is it reasonable? Is it supported by evidence? Is it evidence based? If it's not, then that should tell you then what kind of value to assign it, which is like little to none. So what you're seeking is all the stuff that you can, to a degree, validate, because the reason that you're gonna do that is because you're gonna inform your decision making in terms of how you're gonna conduct yourself. In terms of how you're gonna conduct yourself from that moment forward, right? So ultimately, we're talking about is behavior, and so if society and all these external things inform your behavior, what I'm suggesting is that you can actively reassign behaviors, right? And so again, it means like reconditioning yourself so you create new neural pathways that overwrite the old ones, because we know that neuroplasticity is something that goes on for an entirety of your life. So that, again, hence the value in pursuing this for the entirety of a life, that by the time you get to the end of your days, you might have had the most significant realizations, a significant growth as an individual. Like that in and of itself could be an incredibly rewarding experience to have, right? So it's not just the individual experiences on the road, it's also the totality of all those experiences combined, because all of those will affect you. And if you're not actively taking part in deciding which experiences to have, and you're just allowing chaos and random chance, to choose those experiences for you, then you're subject to those experiences. They'll define you, and maybe not always in the healthiest or best of ways. That's why it's significant and important then for you, the individual, then to actively take part in deciding like who you are, what you want to be, and where your life is going. You decide that, or you leave it to random chance. I would rather not leave it to random chance.
This is one of the most meta conversations we have, because at every point you could really just look at the camera and go, so that was that, this is this, what's next? And it's up to you to decide.
Yeah, it really is. It's really up to the individual to decide. So ultimately, again, I only speak to individual empowerment. I like the idea of people rising up to being the best of what they're capable of being. Like there's significant value in that, right? So, but again, it's a determination that the individual has to make. Only you can do that. It doesn't matter what I think about it. Ultimately, what matters is what any individual who's hearing this, what they do or don't do. Right? Time check.
We're at 1:31.
Okay, I think there's something I want to read, and then I think we're going to close this episode. I think it was a good conversation. I think it was very productive. And I hope anyone listening to this, I hope that's what you get from it. If you don't tell anyone. Okay, so it's a statement I wrote maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And I think it's been recorded. And you can find it in Food for Thought. But just for the sake of this episode, because it's relevant. So I'm just going to read this. So, your life's purpose is your contribution to the whole of humanity. Through the purpose of self-actualization, or the realization of the vast well of potential of any individual, all individuals, we create a universal purpose that is and can be complementary to most, if not all, political and cultural and social and religious ideologies. So regardless of how you think or feel, it's applicable. No individual alone can change society for the better, but a single person can radically transform their own consciousness, overturning social conditioning that limits their potential. We can all do this, one by one. Over time, we can change ourselves to a degree that society changes from the inside out, giving rise to a new way of being, manifesting our birthright of living in an engaging and abundant world. Fear not, trust yourself, live your fullest potential. When you discover your purpose, do not be afraid. You need to have sufficient courage to make mistakes, to be disappointed, to experience defeat and despair in the pursuit of that purpose. These are not the end of the journey. They are the tools to show you the way. Determination, effort, practice are their own rewards. Life is a journey, not to a destination, but a transformation. It is always the smallest choices that add up to a revolutionary change in your life. There is a wide world out there full of pain, adventure, joy, challenge, and beauty. These things are the path of growth and learning. They make the journey worthwhile. Spirituality is broad and includes many perspectives. Generally, it is about a greater sense of connection to something much larger than our individual selves. Typically, it involves searching for meaning in life, that there is something more to being human than just our sensory experience. A universal human experience attempting to answer the questions, what does it mean? What is your purpose? Perhaps we shouldn't be able to answer those questions. Perhaps the point is to search for answers. It is something that touches us all at a deep sense of aliveness and interconnectedness. Master thyself. Strength doesn't come from what you can do. It comes from overcoming the things you once thought you couldn't. Dream the impossible. Seek the unknown. Achieve greatness. The meaning of life is to give life meaning. Self-mastery becomes the goal. Mind, master it. Body, master it. Spirit, master it. Better Reefy. So I hope you take those words in the most serious way. It sums up everything that we took an hour and a half to say in like probably 2 minutes or a minute, right? So is there something you'd like to say in closing?
Oh, I gotta go, man. Let's go. No, I'm joking. It was nice to be on here.
Yeah, this was good. It was refreshing. It's been a while since we've actually recorded. So, and again, very enjoyable. And I really do like being outside. I really do. Even though I do prefer being in the sun. Today's like 37 degrees with the humidity. So, it's pretty scorching. So sitting in the shade today seemed like a really good idea. So, unless you have something that you'd like to add in closing.
Have a good day, or else you don't have a good day.
So in closing, I'd like to say, question everything, including yourself. Seek balance, seek knowledge, seek understanding. Become a renegade, individualist, humanist, critical objective thinker. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day or night.